Besides the angst, suffering, and disruption we've endured, there was another equally disruptive effect. This acceleration in the adoption of AI and what we thought was the future becoming a reality today has made us come to terms with the risks involved in the AI revolution. And of all the AI risks, ethics reigns supreme. But as we bury our dead, a statement that has never before been more critical sounds off loud and clear.
With great power comes great responsibility.
With great power comes great responsibility. Prophetic words relating to AI and its ethical dimensions, as AI is quickly turning science fiction into science fact. Another character from the New York real estate ecosystem, this time an infamous anti-hero, has brought the AI ethics controversy to life. The storming of the Capitol was only the final act in a series of interlinked events that began with the biggest upset in American history when Donald Trump defeated Hillary Clinton largely in part by use of analytics and AI algorithms that targeted misinformation campaign with pinpoint accuracy. Effort led by the questionable Cambridge Analytica and utilizing big tech social media giants, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, as both the source of the data and the platform to target millions of susceptible voters, literally weaponizing AI and resulting in a devastating political, economic, and social events that culminated with the loss of 5 American lives. Let's see what the members of the data savvy group D have to say about this.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this episode of Ethics Analytics,
where we deal with the hottest issues facing data-driven companies today.
Wow, that video we just watched, really shocking how America went crazy like that.
Yeah, it sounds like the plot of a disaster movie.
But now, on a serious note, how will companies manage this controversial issue going forward is the topic we have for you today. Did you know that the majority of consumers expect companies to be accountable for their AI system, but only about 50% of companies have a dedicated member overseeing the ethical AI implementation?
It is definitely on everyone's radar, Juan.
Well, that's precisely why we're going to shed some light on this subject in our podcast today. That Cambridge Analytica Trump case. That's the 800-pound elephant in the room. You can't get any more obvious than that.
What about the other less careless of ethical implications of AI?
Did you hear about the autonomous Uber vehicle running over the girl in Arizona? Here, let's watch the clip.
Whoa! That's thought one. There is really no option for comparisons, but to understand that there is an ethical dimension to AI that must be addressed and dealt with.
That is why, in order to help us understand the issues companies face in dealing with the ethical implications of AI, we have assembled a panel of experts from IE to help us make sense of it all. So, Darren, can you tell us why it's necessary for companies today to build an AI ethics framework?
Hi, Juan. Hi, Ramon. Thank you for having us here today. Let's see if we can help you understand some of the many benefits and ensure that we get a balanced view when it comes to artificial intelligence, and also why it's important for companies today to build an artificial intelligence ethics framework. Artificial intelligence touches upon and impacts every facet of our daily lives, from societal, economic, psychological, our legal system, our environment, and most importantly, public trust. But perhaps let's take a bit of a deep dive today into the economic importance of AI. Our research has shown that AI is intrinsically tied with global prosperity and has increasing importance across every corner of the globe, with AI contributing to a sizable portion of projected GDP in 2030, accounting for 26% in China. We have also seen global funding exceeding 108 billion US dollars and further compounded by the level of startup acquisition activity, with 231 acquisitions in 2019 alone. This is up from a mere 8 in 2010 and really aimed at fueling these GDP projections. As you can see, the levels of activity is absolutely immense, and executives globally are really starting to feel this pain, with 34% of executives feeling the pressure to capture AI value now, which seems to be at the expense of ensuring ethical compliance, as the push for value creation is coming at the expense of ensuring sufficient resources, the right diverse capability, and backed up by robust internal processes. Executives and their respective boards, though, need to ensure that ethics is not just a mere afterthought, nor is it perceived purely as a risk mitigation exercise, but an opportunity for value creation in itself. Our research also shows that 75% of customers won't buy products from unethical or perceived unethical companies. So there's a bit of a double-edged sword here. On one hand, you reduce your ability to attract new customers, and on the other, you run the risk of losing 35% of your current customer base.
Thank you for sharing your wisdom, Darren. All right, so now that we know it is not just important but an essential issue, what is the framework you propose? Let's get Margaret Mwaura perspective on this.
Hello guys, it's good to be here. The framework we'd like to propose is based on 3 core principles: the principle of harm benefits, the principle of autonomy, the principle of justice. The principle of harm benefits is basically ensuring that AI is not used for harm, but rather used for the common good and promoting the good values that we already have in the human society. Will it significantly change people's lives? How are we affecting the psychological well-being of the human beings? Is it actually safe to use this AI concept or algorithm? For the principle of autonomy, it's basically ensuring that we do not override the choice that human beings do have, the decisions to decide what they want to do and how they want to do it. The third principle being justice, the questions that we actually ask, or rather the metrics that we actually use to ensure that AI is being used as a tool for global justice. AI is actually being used as a tool to ensure that there is equitable share of distribution of resources, is to look at the benefit versus the harm. Is there anyone who is being harmed? And if there is, how? What is the impact? Equality? Are the benefits of AI being distributed in an unfair manner? Because if they are, then that is injustice. And that is promotion of the ills that have long been with us. Rather, can we use AI to correct the past mistakes that we have had as a human society? Protection for the rights of the minorities. Accountability, contestability. Can the AI decision be challenged by affected people? These are some of the metrics that we use to measure and ensure that there is justice. And this is what we have proposed as part of our framework. Now, once we have these core principles, then we move to the impact assessment. If, for instance, the AI algorithm fails, what is the impact that will happen from the AI algorithm failing? And therefore, we have proposed a risk impact assessment, and this leads us on into the proposal to actually engage with the users or the stakeholders or the community, if you may. And in instances where they actually disapprove of the AI concept, then we have the chance to actually look at the recourse mechanisms, consult widely, involve professionals and experts, eliminate the unwanted bits of the AI concept, refine the solution, and again conduct the impact risk assessment, after which we will still engage with the stakeholders. This is our proposition for the ethical framework in AI. Thank you.
Can you give us some real-world examples of your framework?
It sure seems Google knows what they're doing.
I like the easy-to-follow process they came up with.
I am beginning to see how this all ties together.
Yes, great examples to bring the points home. We're almost set. I just have one final question. Let's ask Jean-Philippe Thomas to tackle this one. Hey, Jan, how can a company progress through the different maturity levels in ethics?
Thank you, Juan and Ramon. This is actually an essential question. So if we look again at customer opinions, we observe that almost 80% expect new regulations on AI. Then, in clear contrast, we know that almost 90% of companies face either legal actions against them or customer backlashes. So in order to answer how companies can turn these numbers around and become leaders in ethical AI, we must first take a step back and look at the definitions. In our framework, we have 4 different levels of maturity. Starting with the first level, we see unprepared companies that do not actively include ethics as part of AI projects. Then on the second level, we have companies that react after customer outlashes or backlashes. On the third level, we have companies that create ethics teams with inclusion and diversity proactively. And then on the fourth and last level, we see only very few companies. They are the ones that lead in times of change and set the standards. But more precisely, how to become a company that sets the standards, how to get more mature. And here, of course, we talk about another kind of maturity than we see on the picture on the slide, but it's related to experience all the same. As a company, you have to make constant revision part of your ethics workflow. Test, build a community, and communicate.
Thank you, guys. You have enlightened us today. You have made clear that companies must have an ethics framework and how companies should deal with this AI when they are faced with ethics issues in resolving their own business solutions.
Here's my take on this, what this amazing group of experts just shared with us. Since the ethical issues of AI involve life and death decisions and they're understandably complex and controversial, and opinions are heavily influenced by individuals' personal moral codes, however, while those tend to differ greatly from person to person, place to place, it is essential to have a unified system of ethics in place for AI.
We can continue making the world a better place. With AI, the possibilities are endless.
Yes, they are. But with an ethics framework established, all these new AI-driven solutions will be more human. And though the future will be artificially intelligent, it will also be ethically intelligent. It's a brave new world we live in because of AI. That is it for us. Have a very nice evening, and please join us next week in another episode of Ethics Analytics.